Okay, this video is long overdue. In light of the recent shootings in Orlando, Florida, and then in Dallas, Texas, where 5 police officers lost their lives by a lone gunman, and then in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where 3 more officers were shot and killed by a lone gunman, and then more recently the shooting that occurred at the nightclub in Fort Myers, which led to the death of 2 young teenagers, along with the tragic incident that happened much earlier in July, where a father accidentally shot and killed his 14-year-old son at an indoor shooting gun range. I'm now compelled to voice my thoughts and feelings on the subject of guns and mass shootings. And I know the old expression, you should never discuss religion and politics with family and friends, but I don't fully agree with that. Although during holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving, that should probably hold true. Because those two subjects do cause a lot of tension. But I think there are times when it becomes necessary to speak up to all those around us about very important issues. But of course there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. The idea is to try to be respectful and understanding towards the views of others. I would like to think that there's enough of us who can discuss such topics respectfully to have a meaningful civil conversation. So I will try to be very respectful. I'll mainly be reading from an essay that I wrote and posted back in 2012, along with some other additional notes that I have in front of me, because I don't have it all memorized, and I'd hate to leave anything out that's important. So here goes. There are 2 parts to solving this problem we've been facing with mass public shootings. One part is the easy access to powerful automatic guns, and the second part is the human factor or motive aspect. Many have chosen to primarily focus on the gun laws, which I agree are extremely important, for we do need better, more sensible gun laws, while others prefer to focus more on the human side of the equation. I will try to do both. I've always hated the expression, guns don't kill people, people kill people, because it's actually both. No one has ever denied that people are a very crucial part of the equation. That part goes without saying. But guns are also a very crucial part of the equation. Yes, people do kill people in a huge variety of ways, but guns sure make it a hell of a lot easier for dumb people to kill a lot of really good people. In fact, 1,000 times easier. Assault rifles allow one angry person to mow down an entire crowd in very little time. Certain weapons are simply too powerful and too deadly to be wielded by a single individual. When those of the human race start gunning each other down, at times on a weekly basis, to express their frustrations, it means there is something seriously wrong with our way of life. It should communicate to everyone that it's a sign of a deeper problem that goes beyond the gun laws, although the very loose gun laws don't help at all. It's proof that we need to do a better job of raising humankind. Too many of us are simply overworked, overstressed, underpaid, and don't have enough time to spend with our loved ones to teach and guide them properly. So most are caught up in the day-to-day struggles of life, and too many children are not connected to the things that matter. Unfortunately, as a result, too many are allowed to stray way too far from an honorable and virtuous path. This sets up a chain reaction that affects us all. One spoiled apple spoils the bunch. Even sadder are all those with mental conditions who go unnoticed, unreported, untreated, or incorrectly treated and over-medicated. So we as a society need to do a better job of caring for one another and to catch the warning signs of those who might want to lash out. As many have painfully learned, what affects one ultimately affects all others, like the spreading ripples in a pond from a tiny tossed pebble. Whether we like it or not, we are all part of the same human family. People are often quick to reference the Second Amendment of the American Constitution, which constitutionally protects our right to bear arms, in order to defend their position that we Americans should always be free to purchase any and all guns under any circumstances. However, the Founding Fathers, as wise as they were, could not and did not foresee the creation of automatic assault rifles, laser-guided machine guns, grenade launchers, biochemical and nuclear weapons, or perhaps one day lightsabers and photon torpedoes. Many erroneously believe that the Founding Fathers were flawless, as though they were demigods and capable of making a mistake. But I assure you, they were all humans who did make mistakes. They knew this, which was the very reason they created an amendment provision in the Constitution so that it could be repaired or amended when necessary. I hate to say it, but the Founding Fathers were naive to promote and provide the level of freedom they did during the birth of this nation. Many of them even admitted this within their own lifetimes and within their own writings, such as Thomas Jefferson. They understandably wanted to err on the side of too much freedom, given that they had recently been so oppressed by their mother country and British king. So they greatly overcompensated. Thankfully, over the course of history, we have been moving towards a healthier balance between rules and freedom. For example, we've slowly learned that we cannot have complete freedom of speech, like yelling fire in a crowded theater as a joke, or complete freedom of the press, like allowing publishers to print and distribute magazines with child pornography. We can't have complete freedom of religion either, like allowing devil worshiping that involves human virgin sacrifices or the torture of children and animals. I mean, what if it was someone's religion not to follow the civil laws of man? What if it was against someone's religion to wear clothes in public? We humans have to give ourselves limits. We can't have absolute freedom because complete freedom leads to chaos and anarchy. And know that all freedoms come with a price. The more the freedom, the higher the cost. Ironically, we have to have some fences in order to have true freedom. Speaking of religious freedoms, I've recently been trying to do a little research on Muslims and their Islamic faith, which is based on the Quran, and there are things about it that greatly concern me, like how the Quran teaches that if you ever try to leave the Islamic religion, you could be put to death, and how you should kill those who commit adultery or slander the name of the Prophet Muhammad, and that women should be treated with far less respect than men, and so on. So to me, there are some very disturbing and extremely harmful views within that religion. Now, I don't want to just criticize the Muslim faith because many religions include very unusual and at times disturbing beliefs. For instance, the Abrahamic and Judeo-Christian belief system also teaches that women are second to men and speak of talking snakes and miracles like parting of the sea and turning water into wine. In Exodus, Moses and his followers, the Israelites, went from town to town, killing men, women, and children, and even their animals, all in the name of their God. They even killed each other in great, massive numbers. In fact, the second half of Exodus sort of reads like a Jim Jones cult tragedy. They also believed in animal sacrifices and in stoning their own members for stealing and for committing adultery, and they supported the idea of slavery. In the Bible, you can read instructions on how to keep and treat and trade slaves. But most modern-day Christians don't follow the teachings of their Bible so specifically or so literally. There's a lot of strange observances and rituals and laws that would conflict with modern laws within the U.S. In modern times, we don't see Christians stoning each other or sacrificing their livestock as burnt offerings. So most religious doctrines are filled with confusing, disturbing, archaic beliefs and practices that most followers no longer abide by or adhere to. But putting all that aside, we do need to carefully evaluate all religions and try to collectively determine if all their principles, practices, and modes of worship are tolerable in a modern society. In other words, we can't allow for absolute complete freedom of any religion, or at least the practice or expression of any religious belief. Republicans, hunters, gun collectors, and those who want to own a gun to protect themselves often fear that Democrats want to take away all their guns and their Second Amendment rights. But that's a major exaggeration spread by those on the far right of the political spectrum. It would be extremely difficult to find a Democrat in office who thinks we should ban all guns or all weapons altogether, or take away all gun rights from every upstanding, law-abiding citizen. Sensible politicians within both parties only wish to remove certain gun rights from certain citizens who have proven to be unfit in the eyes of the people, and to reduce easy access to ridiculously powerful weapons, along with the production of such highly lethal arms. These type of weapons serve no valuable purpose in society other than perhaps military use during wartime. I mean, do we really need powerful assault weapons to protect ourselves from burglaries or home invasions? Although I admit they may come in handy during a zombie apocalypse, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. And we certainly don't need assault rifles to hunt with, I mean, give a deer a sporting chance, damn. To get back to my main point, there are simply those who should not have gun rights. For example, teenagers should not have the right to take loaded guns to school. Mental patients shouldn't be allowed to walk around with vials of deadly viruses that could kill huge populations of people if broken. And those on the terrorist watch list shouldn't be allowed to order assault rifles on the internet. To most of us, these are common sense restrictions. These type of individuals should not have the right to bear such deadly arms. Statistics currently show that over 80% of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals, agree that we need more sensible, tougher gun control laws that expand background checks to ensure that guns don't fall into the wrong hands. However, we all know that those bent on killing, if they get angry enough or determined enough, will use whatever they can find, like a knife, a rock, a stick, even one's own bare hands to take the life of another. In other words, one almost always has a motive to kill before they do kill. So again, we should never erroneously place all the blame on the objects we call guns, nor can we exonerate their role entirely either. These objects are not to be completely exempt from any and all blame. Even though guns by themselves don't kill people, they make it a hell of a lot easier for bad people to kill good people. For the same reason, we can't allow young children to walk around with bombs in their backpacks or to carry jars of life-threatening acid in their pockets. In short, we should always try to preserve our freedom to bear what we, the people, judge to be reasonable arms with common sense regulations to defend ourselves, hopefully non-lethal in most cases, and protect our freedom to own tools to hunt for food. But at the same time, we shouldn't have complete freedom to own absolutely any weapon, regardless of how deadly or destructive or accessible. To get back to the human equation in all this, we need to examine what allows some to have the mindset to go on a shooting rampage and others not to. One way to trace down the root causal factors is to look to other nations that do not experience mass shootings as often or at all. But be careful when doing so, because there are a lot of confounding variables that can cause confusion. For instance, Canada is often used as a good example of a gun-carrying nation that does not have these horrible mass shootings. Why is that, we might ask? Well, statistics do show that colder regions, though they tend to cause more depression, experience fewer crimes. The prevailing theory of why is because it's often too damn cold to even leave the house. People tend to be less active in colder regions. Warmer climates like those in the U.S., especially in the South, are said to cause citizens to lose their temper far more easily. Also, Canada has a much lower population than the U.S., roughly 1/10, I think, and therefore will be less likely to have a mass shooting take place in terms of all probability. Perhaps a key ingredient is that Canadians are raised better. Perhaps their children get better attention and are less spoiled. Who knows? Overall, though, statistics show that the more guns a nation has and the easier the access to the guns, the higher the death count for gun wounds. It has also been shown that most gun-related deaths sadly turn out to be of friends and family of the gun owners, not criminals or intruders, and how most of them are either accidents or due to reflexive reactions in the heat of the moment of an argument. Just scrolling up. I believe this problem can and will be solved. The lives of all those who were senselessly slain will not have died in vain. Their tragic deaths will be the motivators for needed change. However, I don't think the solution is to arm all teachers, staff, airline crew members, store merchants, and mall vendors, as some have suggested. Which would only exacerbate the problem and which would basically send us back to the days of the Wild West, where someone could get shot for snoring too loud, and where drunk people would be shooting one another in every bar each and every night. But I do think it would probably be a good idea to have at least one hidden guard in every public building, ideally two, and preferably armed with non-lethal weapons. I would also recommend that more people start carrying their own non-lethal arms like pepper spray, stun guns, and possibly tasers. I'm sure bulletproof vests will soon come in fashion and become rather common to wear when going out into public beyond our gated communities, along with helmets and dark-tinted face shields to avoid Big Brother and the paparazzi. Here's the small canister of mace I always carry around with me at all times, except when I'm in bed. Ever since I was chased by a really vicious dog that got out of its pen one day while I was riding my bike. And he charged after me as though he really wanted to take a chunk out of my ass, and nearly succeeded. But I was able to, fortunately, outpace him just barely. In fact, I had never ridden my bike that fast in my whole life. I think I probably almost broke the sound barrier. So now I have this on me at all times, and in the house, in the backyard, and I especially never leave home without it. I usually carry this in my pocket, but when I'm on the bike trail, what I do is I went and bought this little thin black strap in the jewelry department and attached it with a black rubber band that I wrapped around it a couple of times so I could have this around my neck for quick and easy access. And I don't like it being this close to my face, so that's why I made it to where it's not permanently attached, so I can just pull it off like that and spray it quickly at a wild animal or a mean human being. The one that I purchased, in fact, I think two came in a package, and they're not that expensive. But the one that I got was Police Magnum, and it also says OC-17. I'm not sure what that means. That may be like a certain grade or level. There's what that looks like. And I'm assuming police officers maybe use it because it has like a little, it says Police Magnum with the police emblem, and so they may use that brand, but I'm not sure. But it's supposed to be an effective brand, a pretty good mace, from what I remember doing the research. And you do want to get a good brand because I read a lot of reviews where some brands either didn't work all that well or not at all, when the person desperately needed it, for a wild animal or an intruder or a rapist or something like that. And so that would be really disappointing if that was to happen. You think you have it, but you don't. So far, so good, and thankfully I haven't had to use it yet on a person or a dog, because that would be sad. So yeah, everybody should have at least a small container of mace on them everywhere they go, especially nowadays. I'm confident that if we can re-strengthen our economy so that the poor and the middle class are greatly lifted and the elite few no longer reap most of the rewards at the expense of those in need, and if we could just put into place the proper regulations, we will see a major decrease in mass shootings along with all other criminal acts. We also need to teach our children to have a higher reverence for life, especially human life. We need to encourage a stronger sense of family, become less materialistic and a little more spiritual. This is not to say everyone must follow the Abrahamic Judeo-Christian religion, but that each of us must at least come to realize that we are all a part of a larger, meaningful whole. People must learn to value and respect life more than they currently do. We need to make meaningful adjustments to our culture. I'm not too worried though, because I have already seen evidence that many are catching on that we can no longer tolerate nor support the cheap, fast-paced, overworked, disposable American way of life. So I'm fairly certain we as a collective will soon find our way. There will never be a perfect system where everybody walks the streets in perfect harmony. In fact, that would be a little creepy. And to some degree, there will always be those among us who have mental and emotional problems, and those with radical religious ideas who are angry and bent on destruction and revenge. But we must all continue to strive towards betterment as much as possible. Believe it or not, statistically, things are getting better. Gun-related crimes and deaths are going down in America. Employment is on the rise. And the economy is in fact healing. Though we will likely have more rainy days ahead here and there, I do believe better days are just over the horizon, where life is much better for everyone on a regular basis. So hang tight and try to stay the good course. Your positive outlook will spread far and wide and will ensure those days do come. Okay, I just had to get all that off my chest. Anyway, that is the real deal.
You're unbelievable. You're so unbelievable. You're unbelievable.